My name is Armin Kritzinger, and welcome back to our course on the fundamental teachings of Christianity. The Ten Commandments found in Exodus chapter 20 is also known as God's moral law or God's great law of love. God's law is the standard of character, and it promotes happiness, peace, and safety of the universe and its inhabitants. God is unselfish and all-knowing, and so He commands what works best in the universe for its inhabitants. So which of the Ten Commandments is the most important? Well, one day someone asked Jesus that question, and let's look at what Jesus' answer was. In Matthew chapter 22, verses 35 to 40, we read the following. Then one of them, a lawyer, asked, tempting him, saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said to him, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. What an interesting answer. Jesus provides two principles, and He says that all of the laws hang or are based on these two principles. Ellen White explains this a bit more. In Signs of the Times, April 15, 1875, she wrote, The law of Jehovah, dating back to creation, was comprised in the two great principles. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. These two great principles embrace the first four commandments, showing the duty of man to God, and the last six, showing the duty of man to his fellow man. The principles were more explicitly stated to man after the fall, and worded to meet the case of fallen intelligences. This was necessary in consequence of the minds of men being blinded by transgression. So under the great law of unselfish love, there are two great principles. Love for God as supreme, and loving our fellow man as we love ourselves. The Ten Commandments are based on these two principles. The first four commandments explain how to love God, and the last six commandments explain how to love our fellow man, our neighbor, just as we love ourselves. In this lesson, we are going to look at the first four commandments. We are going to look at our duty towards God, how to love God. Ellen White wrote in Desire of Ages, page 606, The first four commandments, which point out the duty of man to his Maker. The first commandment on how to love God and our duty towards our Maker says in Exodus chapter 20, verse 3, You shall have no other gods before me. The reason why God alone is due our reverence and our worship is because He alone is the uncreated eternal one, who is the creator and sustainer of us all. Nobody else should be worshipped, because then we are giving to them what belongs to God only. Anything that lessens our love for God, of that we make a false God. It could be many, many things. The love of money, love of pleasure, love of some famous, popular person, and even loving ourselves more than our Creator, our God. The second commandment on how to love God and our duty towards God says in Exodus chapter 20, verses 4 to 6, You shall not make to yourselves any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the sea. You shall not bow yourself down to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons to the third and fourth generation of those that hate me, and showing mercy to thousands of those that love me and keep my commandments. Trying to represent the eternal God by material things will lower our perception of God. And when our perception of God is lowered, then we will also become more degraded. The worship of idols makes us attracted more to the creation and the creature instead of the Creator. Now, what does God mean when He says that He's a jealous God? He is simply using the illustration from a marriage where the person does not want to share their lover with another person. What does it mean when God says, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons to the third and fourth generation? It does not mean that children are punished for the wrong things that their parents do, but it means that children are affected by the consequences of the decisions and the actions of their parents. Children also inherit wrong tendencies, perverted appetites, and debased morals, as well as physical disease and degeneracy from their parents. And we all need to choose whether we will allow that to rule our lives or not. The second commandment closes with a beautiful promise, where God says that He shows mercy to thousands of those who love Him and keep His commandments. The third commandment on how to love God and our duty towards our Creator says in Exodus chapter 20 verse 7, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that takes His name in vain." When we really love God, we will not use His name in a light or careless manner. By thoughtless repetition of His name and thoughtless mention of God's name in common conversation, we dishonor Him. Psalm chapter 111 verse 9 says, "Holy and reverent is His name." The fourth commandment on how to love God and our duty towards our Creator says in Exodus chapter 20 verses 8 to 11, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it." The Sabbath day, established at creation, is to be observed and remembered as a memorial of God's creative work. All who keep the Sabbath day holy show that they worship the Creator God. This is what makes the Sabbath a sign of allegiance to God, like we find in Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 20. The fourth commandment about the Sabbath is perhaps the most misunderstood, even in Christian circles. And so we will have lessons specifically dedicated to the fourth commandment and the Sabbath, to understand more about this commandment. What does it mean to keep the Sabbath day holy? When is the Sabbath day? Has the Sabbath day been changed to another day? Those questions and more will be answered in that lesson. So stay tuned for that lesson on the Sabbath. So the first 4 commandments that show us how to love God and our duty towards our Creator are basically not having another God, not making and worshipping any images, not taking God's name in vain, and remembering to keep the Sabbath day as a holy day. God knows that keeping these first 4 commandments, together with the last 6, will promote the safety, happiness, and peace of the universe and its inhabitants. And when we truly love God, then we will choose to obey these 4 commandments that we just discussed. I recommend reading Patriarchs and Prophets chapter 27 by Ellen G. White for a little more detail about these commandments, their meaning, their purpose, etc. We can see that these first 4 commandments could be kept even if no one else existed in the universe except you and God. It doesn't really require other people for us in order to keep these 4 commandments. Why? These 4 commandments are about our duty towards God, not about our duty towards other people. If I choose to follow or not to follow these first 4 commandments, it will not directly impact other people, but it will directly impact me and my relationship with God. And that can indirectly impact other people. Because these first 4 commandments is about my duty towards God and my relationship with Him, so other people do not have authority or business to control and to regulate this. What does that mean? It means that the government shouldn't make a rule that says that we should worship God only and not worship any other gods. Why? Because then what God will it be? And who will choose what God will it be? Will it be the God of the Jews? The God of the Christians? The God of the Muslims? The God of another religion? Such a law would force a religion upon all of the people. And what if that religion is a false religion? In the same way, the government should also not make any rules regarding the second, third, and fourth commandment. When governments attempt to do this, it leads to persecution. We find an example of this in the Bible in Daniel chapter 3, where men were required to break the second commandment or die. The same is also found in Daniel chapter 6, better known as Daniel and the Lion's Den. The same is also found in countries today that have blasphemy laws. That would be enforcing the third commandment. There's a lot of religious persecution in those countries. In history, we also know of countries that had laws about the fourth commandment, forcing people to keep holy a specific day and no other day. This also resulted in lots of persecution. God, in His infinite wisdom, has established that the first 4 commandments is about our duty towards Him, not our duty towards the government, and not our duty towards our neighbor and other people. God will punish disobedience to the first 4 commandments, not the government. And so, as Christians, we will oppose any legislation from the government that will restrict or oppose principles regarding the first 4 commandments. But we will definitely encourage people to follow those first 4 commandments, as God has made it clear that this is what is best for us, and it is our duty towards our Creator. 3 pieces that I recommend reading on the role of government regarding making rules about enforcing and restricting the first 4 commandments are all written by Alonzo T. Jones, and they are all 3 found for free on the internet. They are called The Limits of Civil Government by A.T. Jones, Civil Government and Religion, also by A.T. Jones, and The National Sunday Law by A.T. Jones as well. We know that Satan hates God's law, every single one of them. So Satan is always busy attacking God's law, including these first 4 commandments. He doesn't want people to love God. He doesn't want people to fulfill their duty towards their Creator. He doesn't want people to do what is best for them. So Satan has made up lots of lies about the first 4 commandments, trying to lead people into disobedience. But God's Word encourages us to try for ourselves the principles of His Word and His law, and to look at the fruits. What effect does it have on our lives? When we follow these first 4 commandments, are our lives better off or worse off? When we love our Creator and fulfill our duty towards God, what effect does it have on our life? We need to experience it for ourselves, and then we will know. In Psalms chapter 34 verse 8, the Bible says, "O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusts in Him."